Laureate and a columnist for the New York Times. So I ask you, Paul, good to see you first of all, and thank you for taking the time. I ask you, do we need to see higher unemployment and lower job creation if the Fed is going to make it to 2%?
Well, of course, the answer is nobody really knows, but the experience of the past year has been really encouraging. I mean, inflation, even if you try to extract some kind of underlying inflation measure, it's down from something like 5 to 6% a year ago to something like 3% now. And all of that has happened without any rise in unemployment. So whatever, all the stories about how we were going to need a kind of 1980s style Paul Volcker crunch with years and years of high unemployment don't seem right. Now, it's possible that the last mile, the last percentage point, will be harder, much, much harder, essentially infinitely harder, because we haven't paid any price at all for the disinflation so far. But so far, everything says that it's actually really, it's not that hard to get inflation back to normal.
Right, the Goldilocks scenario. I read your article earlier in the week, which I think amply and you, whilst chastising potentially you argue that President Biden might have done a bit more than was necessary with his stimulus. You do say it would be too much to argue that Biden economic policy was pure Goldilocks, but overall it's starting to look as if Biden got it more or less right. And I'm guessing or got it mostly right after all, and I'm guessing you would put today's numbers as very clear evidence of that.
Oh yeah, today's report, I mean, if you wanted to obsess, you could say the wage growth number looked a little bit high, but that's been a very noisy number. And all of us who follow these things have gotten burned repeatedly by overinterpreting monthly changes there. So, and it's not disastrous.
Right.
And the job growth number is right in the slot that you want to be seeing at this point. You want to see it slowing because we can't add jobs, faster than the population is growing indefinitely, but we don't want to see it falling off a cliff either. And so this is right where we want to see it.
In this scenario, does the Fed, to some extent it is an academic question whether there's one more rate rise or two more. It's not really terribly significant in the great grand scheme of things. But how long the Fed keeps these rates up, along with the other central banks like the BOE and that is significant, don't you think?
Yeah, and I'm actually not a big monetary dove here. I'm a soft landing guy, but I think that there is at least a reasonable argument that says that what the Fed guys call R star, that the interest rate consistent with full employment, but price stability has gone up. That we've had a variety of things, including Biden administration policies, that have basically increased investment demand. And so we may need to have, for a substantial period, interest rates considerably higher than they were pre-pandemic.
Has the underlying economics changed, or is it merely a question of the facts? What I'm alluding to is, in the 1980s, Greenspan, 90s, he always talked about whether or not the change as a result of the internet and whether the existing models. But this ability to grow at a time of high inflation that's now coming down, this scenario without unemployment, has the underlying economics changed?
I don't think that the way the economy works has changed all that much, although it's always changing. It's just that this was a very different kind of inflation from the kind of inflation that we had to deal with in the 70s. This was I've been calling it, discombobulation. This was inflation that had a lot to do with the disruptions associated with the pandemic. We called it transitory, and it turned out that transitory meant years of discombobulation, not months. But it really was a very unusual, the closest parallel would be the kind of disruptions of the late 1940s. So that we were, turning back to a peacetime economy. So it's not so much that the economy is different as that this inflation was a very different phenomenon.
On the politics of it, it's going to be very hard for the Democrat president, though, for Joe Biden. It's almost like he's being blamed for the damage, but if the latest polls are being to be read correctly, he's getting no credit yet. I'll give you the yet for the better economy.
Well, we know it's all kind of mysterious. I mean, there are many surveys now that say that if you ask people, how are you doing? They say, great. And you say, how is the economy doing? And they say, terrible.
Yeah.
Lots of people seem to think that, bad things are happening to someone else, people they don't actually know, but it's really bad. It's out there somehow. Maybe that changes in response to reality. Maybe there's just been some fundamental shift in the psychology here. But it's also not clear that what people say about the economy is going to matter as much as people imagine for their voting intentions.
I noted in all your articles and your tweets and all of the last few days, you've been very restrained from using a phrase that if I had been you, I would have delightfully said, "I told you so." You're at the moment you're being proven right.
Well, I mean, I was clearly wrong. There was a good year and a half when inflation was way higher than I imagined was going to happen. So I'm not going to start doing a victory dance over the fact that, way behind schedule, it's starting to look kind of like the story I imagined. I think we all need quite a lot of humility here. If you find any economist who says that they've gotten it right all along, then you know not to trust that person.
Paul will always trust you. Thank you, sir. I'm very grateful for your time tonight. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you.
Take care.